The people in the African diaspora that this presentation will be exploring are Belizeans in the United States. Afro-Belizeans migrating to the United States have unique experiences that reflect many past and present political, economic, and cultural factors. This presentation will show you how Afro-Belizeans' stay in the United States shapes their views of the homeland and the hostland. Furthermore, it will illustrate how Afro-Belizean population's migration is relevant to African diaspora discourse and discuss how these factors of a migration manifest in their individual lives. Although situated in Central America, Belize is considered a Caribbean nation at heart due to its history, similarly to other Caribbean nations colonized by Britain. In 1973, Belize, formerly known as British Honduras, gained its independence from Britain, where it gained its current name. Belize is a very diverse country with many ethnic groups. Currently, there are two ethnic groups making up the Black population. The Creole population, which is of any person of partial Black African descent, makes up 25% of the Belizean population, while the Gurungawa are of mixed African and indigenous descent and make up 6% of the population. Although the Gurungawa and Creole population make up the Afro-Belizean population, they have had vastly different experiences when they arrived in Belize. Belizean Creoles are descendants of Black Africans who were enslaved and brought to Belize by English and Scottish log cutters. The Creole culture remains a staple culture of Belize, shown through the wide use of the Belizean Creole language and various Creole traditions. The Gurumfura are descendants of a shipwrecked slave ship who intermarried with the Arawak Indians of the island of St. Vincent and eventually immigrated to various countries in Central America. Today, the Gurumfura people of Belize live mainly in small towns on the Caribbean coast. The Gurumfura speak an Araucarian language, and the Gurumfura villages in Belize developed their unique culture that continues today through song, dance, food, and language. Although Belize was under British rule, the United States has had a great influence in Belize. The United States is home to the largest Belizean community outside Belize, estimated to be 160,000 Belizeans. Belizeans' reason for immigration to the U.S. can be attributed to economic and cultural factors. Many Belizeans migrated to the U.S. in search of economic opportunities. By the mid-1970s, the number of Belizean migrants in the United States was approximately equal to the remaining working population in Belize. Economic opportunities were not the only influence for Belizeans migrating to the U.S., but also cultural influences. English-speaking Belizeans have been culturally influenced by the United States, by American media. American television shows in Belize allowed Belizeans to get immersed in American culture. This, coupled with search for economic opportunities, was a catalyst for Belizean immigration to the United States. Regarding immigration, it is also important to note that Belizean women played a significant role in the migration of Belizeans to the United States. From the 1950s through the 1970s, there were greater opportunities for women in the U.S. Therefore, many Black Belizean women migrated on their own and facilitated the immigration of relatives and friends in the United States. Afro-Belizean women's pioneering immigration to the United States relates to the critical role in the homeland, where Afro-Belizean women are leaders of the community, heads of households, and workers. Women's significant role socially, politically, and culturally can be explained by pre-colonial political characteristics of Africa, where African women are the leaders of their community. While being racially Black in the United States but being culturally different has created an interesting dynamic for Afro-Belizeans. Historically, African Americans and Afro-Belizeans competed for economic opportunities in the U.S. Therefore, Afro-Belizeans began to separate themselves from African Americans to gain employment. In the case of Afro-Caribbeans in the United States, distancing themselves from African American identity was used as a mechanism to gain power in the form of economic opportunities. This shows how Afro-Caribbeans' identities are socially constructed and shaped by the dominant culture. Afro-Belizeans' reshaping of identities is explored through Patterson's article, where she states, diasporic identities are socially and historically constituted, reconstituted, and reproduced, and that any sense of a collective identity among Black people in the New World Europe and Africa is contingent and constantly shifting. Due to the high immigration of Afro-Belizeans to the United States, it has affected not only the settlement country but also the host land. This is shown through the high number of violent crimes in Belize, where Belize is consistently ranked among the top 5 countries in the world for homicides. Interestingly, Afro-Belizeans that immigrated to the United States participated in blood and crip gangs. Eventually, this gang violence crossed borders and entered Belize. This idea is shown through a YouTube video where an active Belizean gang member talks about his experiences.
Before Bloods and Crips, we gonna be Belizean. The Fruitown Brims, the Rolling 20s is majority Belizean. The BPS Jungles and the Biddy Stones is Belizean. The Harlems, half of they almost whole hood is Belizean. And the 40s is Belizean, and you got a gang of 60s that's Belizean. Those are all of the predominant popular gangs in LA that's putting stuff down. I don't even speak a lot of Creole out here to the American homies because they take that almost as a weakness, and they feel like it's like I'm dividing myself, I'm separating myself from them. When I'm around my Belizeans, I automatically speak Creole. I don't even speak no English to no Belizean because I feel like that disrespect for me to speak to a Belizean in American language because this is not our number one language. We different back home in Belize.
He speaks on how he switches languages depending if he speaks to an African American gang member versus a Belizean gang member. This shows that identity construction is only maintained racially by the dominant society, however, it differs socially within these culturally specific groups. Furthermore, this video illustrates how host lands play a significant role in shaping and developing the diasporic communities. The transnationalism identity of the Afro-Belizeans also relates to Patterson's idea of how Afro-Belizeans possess a racial identity that transcends across geographical borders dictated by the dominant culture. Butler addresses diaspora discourse by looking at the interrelationship within communities of the diaspora. A future project I would like to explore is expand on Butler's idea and examine Afro-Belizeans in the United States by looking at the interrelationship between communities of the diaspora, African Americans and Belizean Americans, occupying the same spaces. This can be examined by looking at movements like the Black Lives Matter movement and see if Afro-Belizeans identify with the same experiences as African Americans. Through a psychological lens, future research questions that could be researched are looking at the multi-dimensions of acculturation. How does colorism and identity construction relate to acculturation? Do Belizeans that consider themselves Afro-Caribbean and not Black differ on psychological and social adjustment versus a Belizean American who considers themselves Black within the context of racial identity in the U.S.?